All right. I am so excited to have with me today my good friend, Becky Rogers. So, I have to tell you a little bit about Becky. I met her at a doTERRA Elite retreat. She started telling me these amazing stories about her life. She actually went from being months behind on her house payment. Her house actually was in foreclosure, and then she started changing her story. And you guys have heard me talk about this a little bit about changing the words that you say to yourself and all of those kind of things. Well, her life started to change so significantly, and she and I stayed up until 3 or probably maybe even 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't know if we went to bed that night, but she was telling me these stories about catching up on her house payment, getting her home out of foreclosure, and then even being able to take her kids on a long desired vacation with her kids in a motorhome, other side of the country, to church history sites that she had wanted to see, and story upon story upon story upon story. And by the time I met her, she had been doing this for some time, and it was all so matter of fact. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am so amazed at what's happening with all of this stuff. And so Becky and I have kept in contact. We actually went to Hawaii together, which was super fun.
It
And
was.
and then she felt a calling later to go to Africa. She had an awareness that there was some things that needed to happen in Africa. And so Becky, tell us a little bit about that. Like, what happened with that?
So at some point amidst all of that, as I'm rewriting everything that happens to me, from little things to big things to significant things to really stupid things, like why do I end up at Costco on a Friday or on a Saturday morning every week when I really know that's a stupid thing to do, right? Like, why does that happen? So I just would rewrite that story. I rewrote that story and how I wanted it to look, and it just shifted by itself, and it just, like, my schedule rearranged itself, and anyway, so intriguing to watch how that whole process works, that at some point I started to have an awareness that one of the passions in my life is mothers. I'm really passionate about mothers. We have homeschooled our kids for a long time, so we're passionate about education as well. And so somewhere along the line, I started to have an awareness that there were children, there were places in the world where there were beliefs that you can't get an education for your children if you can't pay their school fees. And I knew that not only was that not true, but that if we could educate the mothers, we could educate the whole family. But I had never been anywhere. And so I'd never been any place to see what those kinds of humanitarian needs would be, and to see what kinds of educational needs those would be. So, and at the time it was pretty much impossible, because like the story that you told, we were coming out of that whole thing. My husband thought it was ridiculous, because like we need a project that big. Like, why on earth would you want to go to Africa? I'm like, I don't know, but I just feel like I'm like I just need to go and see what's happening, you know? And so I didn't have any money to do it. I think at the time I was working a job. I was working a full-time job and a couple of part-time jobs, and I still didn't have any time, and I didn't have any money. So it really was ridiculous.
I didn't mention, but Becky has 10 children. So a couple of part-time jobs, full-time job,
Right.
10 children.
I just didn't sleep. That's where I was coming out of, like 2 hours a night for a long time. I did that. But what happened was I just wrote down on a piece of paper that I go to Africa to do humanitarian work. That's it. And I thought, maybe, it doesn't matter how long it takes. Maybe it'll take me 2, 3, 4 years. I can save my money. I can figure out a plan. And the thing that happened was it took me 10 months, and I ended up in Kenya. And so totally life-changing. And then I came home and I thought, boy, wow, I can't believe that just happened like that. What would happen if I did, like, where else would I want to go? And so I just wrote down that I go to India. And I wrote it down in February, and I went in May. And so it's like, as your brain learns how to do this, it works better and better and faster and faster. So that's kind of what started it. And I started to just see some of those challenges. And when I wrote down that one line about going to Africa to do humanitarian work, because I wrote it down, it just opened up my brain to be able to imagine more. So as I would get more details in my imagination about it, I would add those to my page. So that gradually that one line became a page of all the things that I do.
The first thing you wrote down was, I go to Africa to do humanitarian work. So it's like, this is like a part of who I am. This is this is one of the things that I do
Yeah.
in my life is I go.
Like I'm doing it right now. Like this is like I'm putting it in the present tense, right? Like this
Right.
is what I do. Yeah. Yep.
And then,
Exactly.
and so then you have it on the paper, and then did you look at it all the time? Did you have it hanging up? Did you stick it in a book? Like, how did that work?
I, usually I just write it in a notebook, but I really didn't do anything else with it. I
Special
just kind of
with it?
let,
Yeah.
nope. I just set a really strong intention around it. I just set a strong intention around that space that I'm writing in my notebook, that's what it's for and that's what's going to happen. So, yeah, so that's what I did. And then that started everything.
Super,
So
super powerful. So now you've been in Africa for about 3 years now, right?
yes.
So then tell us a little bit about your projects that you've done. And I know you mentioned your first year and a half was a particular project.
Our first year and a half. Yeah. So somewhere along the line. So after I came the first time, I always knew that we were called to Ghana. So even though I went to Kenya on the first trip, I always knew we were called to Ghana. So, so after my first couple of trips, I went on my first trip to Ghana, and I did it the same way. I just wrote down that what I wanted to have happen and how I was doing. I just wrote the story of it, and then it happened. And I did that 3 times, I think. And I went back to Kenya a few times, and then something shifted, and it became a priority for us to move here, our family. And so 3 years ago, a little more than 3 years ago, we did move to Ghana. My husband and I and our 5 youngest kids came. Now we just have our 4 youngest kids here with us. And the first year and a half, we had no idea why we were coming. That was the weird thing. It was like, take your whole family, move to Ghana,
Sell everything you have, sell your house.
Sell everything you have. Yep. That house I worked so hard to keep out of
Get
trouble.
out of foreclosure, right?
Turns out it's not that important after all. Oh man, what a ride. Yeah. So we ended up moving here, and we didn't know why we were here. It took us like a good year and a half to just try to adjust and adapt to the new way of living, because we didn't know how to shop. We didn't know, like, the food's all different. We don't speak the language. We're not used to living with bars on all of our windows and in a compound with a wall. My poor husband was like, it was way, like, at least I had been several times. He had never been.
So it was all brand new for him
before we moved here. So it was all new for him.
Wow.
Yep. And so he's a super good sport. Super good sport.
You love Tom.
This is how I know how much he loves me. Because,
that's right.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. So I love that you named your first project "Try Not to Die."
Try not to die. Our internet was terrible. We couldn't get anything to work. Like, we couldn't. So we left our our older family back home. So we were trying to communicate with everybody and figure out how to do that. And when our internet doesn't work, like, it was so full of challenges, so many challenges. But across those challenges, we started to notice in our community what some of those needs were. And so we noticed that probably in our, even in our church community, and so that's kind of a good cross section of our neighborhood. Probably like 30 to 40% of the women don't read at all. And so they were really struggling. And then and so they're limited on the things that they can do to provide for their families. So many single moms are here.
And that was your thing. One of the first things that you said was that you had this passion for mothers, and you felt like if you could educate the women, you could educate everyone. And so here you are, and you see this need that 40% of the women don't read
at all.
Yeah.
At all. Yeah. And so we built 2, we call them family literacy centers. We built 2. One of them is in the Liberian refugee camp here outside of the capital. So the poverty is just unbelievable. And most of those women don't read either. So, and the men don't either, but some of them, sometimes they're too, they're more proud. They don't want to admit that they don't. So we have a few brave men that will come, right? But in that particular mom school, we had, I think, we opened that literacy center and didn't know what was going to happen. Like, we didn't know if people were going to come, how it was going to be received. And over the course of the next 3 months or so, every month we would visit, the numbers had doubled.
Oh my gosh.
So I
People,
think we ended up with about 72 moms coming to mom school every day, working on, like, they learn how to spell their names for the first time. They learn how to write. They learn how, like, it's amazing. Actually, if you want to see some of the videos of some of those women, you can go to our YouTube channel. We have a YouTube channel called Families Mentoring Families. And that kind of shows our progress and kind of our journey over the last 3 years.
that
You
is
want to see.
awesome.
So yeah, so we built that, and then and those ladies, they wanted to learn to sew. So we told them if they learned to read, we'd help them with the sewing school. And so that sewing school opened up last December, and they started to learn to sew. So they're learning to read, they're learning to sew. And then when COVID happened, they just went straight into making masks for their community, so they could start to like provide, yep, and start to provide a little bit of income for themselves. So so really fantastic. So right now, that just kind of took off. So today we have 8 literacy centers across Africa. We have 2 in Kenya. We have 1 in Liberia. We have 3 that are underway in the process of being built before everything closed with, you know, all of the other stuff that shall not be named. So
Right.
that's what we call it. We make up names at our house, so we don't say the actual word. So because your story, right? Like, your story is super
Right.
important, and we don't
And
have
it's
room
the
for it in
words,
our house.
right? We build our
Yeah.
stories with words. And so very,
Yep.
very powerful. So some of the things that you have noticed also with the restrictions related to the global situation, now the the people in your area who have relied on tourism, right? The artists and things like that. And so they've relied on tourism to be able to sell their goods. And so talk about that a little bit, what you've done and how that's supported.
So we've had to all get creative, right? And here people earn their money today, and then they buy their food on the way home that they're going to eat today. So it's not like they have things, you know, set aside or saved. So if people don't work, they don't eat. So even massive, like the much bigger danger was starvation during the lockdown, because people were not able to get food. They were going hungry. So, but these artists and people that are friends of ours, we also, because we're used to having teams come over and help us with these projects in the summer and in the spring, and like we have them all year round actually. But when everything shut down and travel stopped, we are in the same boat because we're working on this bigger project. And so we had this idea that we could work with some of our friends to help them sell their paintings, their baskets, their
Carvings and
purses, their carvings. Yep, like all of, like, nativities, soapstone nativities. We did a Noah's Ark set that was a total miracle. So so that helps, because people, when they participate with those fundraisers, it actually, you pay for it now, and it will come as soon as the borders open. Like, we'll bring it over as soon as the borders open. But what it does is it feeds these families
right.
for, you know, it feeds these families for now. Like, it helps them. And it also mostly helps us, because it gives us some of the funding that we need to move forward on our projects when we don't have people coming over like we usually
So, and if you're, because you mentioned you had just done like a basket fundraiser over the weekend. And so where do people go if they want to buy some of the art or the different wares that they have?
Right now, we're actually going to make something more out of this because it's worked so well. But for right now, the best way is just to look at my Facebook feed. I'm posting it in my personal feed, and then I will also post to Families Mentoring Families. I'll tag Families Mentoring Families page. So usually you can find it there. But right now, the basket fundraiser is up. They are so beautiful. They're so beautiful. So yeah, if you want to, I'm going to post some other things too, either today or tomorrow. Some of the more of the paintings and the carvings and things like that. We kind of cycle through, like, we post something until it's kind of feels like it's done, and then we'll bring it back a little bit later, you know, like that, because people want to see new things. And we have a ton of cool stuff. We have so many cool friends. That's why.
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
So that's been a huge blessing to us right now. So
and that from that, you've also been able to do, I think you said 4 projects already to help feed people, because that's a big piece of what it is that you're doing.
Yes, and we have another one that's underway that you're going to see by the end of next week that will feed 200 families of 3. So about 600 people.
Oh my goodness.
That will be coming together. Yes, my kids are slave labor here. So they're going to be packing up food and distributing, working their guts out, which they already do. They already do. Yeah. If you follow us at all, you will see how active our kids are in all of this. This is their project. They do it.
It's such a powerful thing for kids to be able to have that kind of experience. Okay, so you are on a property right now. So tell us a little bit about this project, because you've had a lot of things going on, but this project, this place where you are now is what you call it, the Family Restoration Center. So tell us about that.
Okay, you want me to give you a little tour while I tell you about it?
Yes, I would love that. What is the Family Restoration Center? What families need restoring? What is it about?
Okay, so the thought with the Family Restoration Center, one of the things that we noticed after about a year and a half or 2 years here was that there were a lot of children in orphanages that have parents. So probably 80% of them have parents. They just cannot take care of their children, and so they bring them to the government and they drop them off at an orphanage, and then no one ever works with those mothers again to be able to take back the care of their children. And so that's where the idea for the Family Restoration Center was kind of born. I'm just going to bring you around this way so you can kind of see. So this property needs a lot of renovation and restoration. We're up to our eyeballs in it already. If you look down this way, over this way, there's I guess I should go slower here, huh? So this is a building with 6 rooms that as soon as it gets a new roof and new wiring, we are going to be receiving a lot of people through social welfare. Right now, most of the people that are coming are not in the social welfare system, which is great because they're actually mothers that still, well, I'll tell you a little bit of their stories after I give you this. Okay, so as you come up here, so this is the Family Restoration Center. It's actually a 6-acre property, so there's a lot going on here. This is the main gate that you just drive through. It's actually, there's a main gate on the street, and then this is the gate into the archway into the compound. Okay. So we're 76% funded on this. That's how much we've paid on it. And this is where our Doterra Healing Hands project comes in. But our family, we were able to take possession of it about 2 months ago, or a month and a half ago. So we've been staying up here for about a month and a half now, just working on things. So this building right here is going to be the team house. So when teams come over, we have 3 apartments in this building where they will stay. This building over here is where we're going to bring our first 2 families. We actually have 4 families that are ready to come, or will be within the next few weeks. So
when you have the families, when they come, they so their children or child is in an orphanage, but the family comes and the child from the orphanage also comes, and this is where you help them to reunify. Yeah. And you teach them self-reliance skills, and are the families already involved, like in your literacy center?
Yes. So this, so I'll give you some examples of who these families are. But this building right here, we just took the roof off last week. We've added actually we've added 4 new pillars on the front for structure, and then we've replaced the roof so that hopefully this is 2 rooms and a bath in this building. Hopefully this will be ready by the end of the week. The electrician and the plumber are coming tomorrow to finish that. Over here is the main house, the big house, and probably the family that's going to be staying here. Hey, Paul, say hi. Paul is our caretaker, so he's he watches this property and takes care of it when we're not here, and he works his guts out the rest of the time. So he's doing his laundry.
Awesome.
So we'll show you how we do laundry here.
This is awesome. Hi, Paul.
In a bucket.
Very cool.
He's washing his sheets. Yeah. That's the old ceiling right there, that pile of crap. So. Oh my goodness.
Okay,
so I'm just going to take you down this way to show you. This is part of my favorite thing. So we have so that was kind of how the idea was born about the Family Restoration Center. This is where we play men's doubles and volleyball. Nice. On a clothesline. we have to be all kinds of creative about our own entertainment and recreation. But this is the garden. Then this is the part that I want to show you because it's so beautiful and so healing. And usually we're in the rainy season, which this is all, let me see if I can just show it to you slow.
Yeah, go.
Usually we're in the rainy season right now. It already has not rained for nearly 4 weeks. So we're about 3 months off going into the dry season, which, yeah, we're a little bit concerned about, but.
Mm-hmm.
So it just has all of these terraces, and we call this the garden of the broken pots because as you will be able to see, I'll show you, there's all kinds of pottery, old pots. This property was built in the 60s and it was quite the place in its heyday.
You can
but
tell.
Now a lot of the pots, these are our carrots my kids planted. Ta-da.
Nice.
Right. So all of these pots that have been broken over time, and we were trying to think of, like, we went to go clean them up and we really literally got stopped. Like, just plant something in these because they all have a story and they're all beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, they're all growing. Okay, I'll show you some of the
And
other
it's
ones.
like
So
people, because here we are as broken people, and yet we're beautifully used. And
this is one of the most beautiful broken pots here.
Look at that.
We need to plant something in it. Some of them, these ones up here, my kids replanted and repotted new plants in them. And they've moved some flowers from other parts of the property into this garden. Like over here, we've had roses. It's, like I said, it's starting to get dry, so they're starting to, but look at this.
Wow.
So all of those pots with the plants in them. So this is like the place where people can, that these families can come, these women can come in their healing journeys to experience a safe place where they can work on their education.
Look at that.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is our Wi-Fi spot. We get the best signal right here. So this is where we come and we sit out here on this blue bench and work. It's so nice. It's like, why would we ever go home? I don't know. So looking back this way, this is what it looks like here on the back. So basically, so I'll tell you a little bit about the women really briefly. So one of them is, let's see if I can turn it this way so you can see me and the garden. Okay, here we go. There. So one of them is a mother of 10, and due to unfortunate circumstances about 10 years ago, she found herself as a single mother, and it was very difficult for her to manage that, and she didn't know what to do. And so her 5 younger children, the older ones, they went to the older ones went to relatives, and the younger ones went into an orphanage kind of situation. But she always wanted to have them back, so she would go and she would work a few days a week so she could just keep an eye on them and just keep track of her children. But no one was there to help her. No one was there. Just like, she had no hope of ever having them back again. And so we actually started to work with her last year, and they were reunited a year ago. But we're still not finished working with them. Like, they made huge progress, but we are still feeling like there's more of, obviously when you have a family that large, it takes more money and more business and all that kind of thing to manage it. So she and her kids were actually here today helping us clean up stuff because they're waiting to come here very soon. Another woman, a young mom, she found herself expecting twins. And when the man she thought was going to marry her found out that there were 2 babies, he wanted her to terminate the pregnancy. And when she refused to do that, he left her basically high and dry on the street. And so she's kind of been out back and forth between homelessness and, like, right now she's staying with a family of 6 in one room. Wow. And she has her 1.5-year-olds. They're 18-month-olds. And so she also, as soon as that other building over there is done with that roof that I just showed you that we're working on, as soon as that's done, she'll be coming with her 2 babies. And then there's another family that stays here on site with us that is in charge of running those programs and, like, working with them every day in the mentoring and helping them, you know, see how they're doing. Are they making progress? How much money are they saving? But even with Mercy, that mother with the twins, she's made great progress just coming once a week to help us with laundry. Now she was able to buy some cloth diapers, and so she doesn't have to buy them every week. So now she saves about 5 CDs a week, which is about $1. So she's able to save $1 a week, which is for her, like, so just to give you an idea, like before, and actually still now, she has a cloth that she wraps one baby on her back, and then she carries the other baby on her just in her arms. And that's her cloth, like that's the thing that she owns, based probably about all she does. So even one night she stayed here, and she just puts that cloth on the ground and sleeps on top of it, and just tucks her babies in up underneath her. And if it's cold, she'll put that cloth over her, and it's just a piece of cotton. Like it's just a piece of cotton fabric. So that, like, if it's cold, that's their blanket. Otherwise they'll sleep on top of it, and that's their mattress. So that's, and she would buy a meal on the street, and then she would find out that, and then she'd split it with the babies every day. And then she herself, if she had anything extra, she would feed herself. And it was probably, I think we figured out she was probably eating 3 or 4 times a week.
Oh my God.
But making sure her babies are being fed. She's a superb mother. She's just such a beautiful mother. But even in going through these mentoring classes and processes, she's realized that if she has a coal pot, she can cook for herself in her house instead of have to buy a meal on the street already prepared.
Wow.
We can all eat, like just things like that, right? Like,
Right.
So that's really awesome. So that's one. And then we have been working with OUR, Operation Underground Railroad. So this is opening up a whole new aspect of this that we didn't anticipate when we had the initial idea, but it's turning out to be a pretty big deal. So they have a woman that they have rescued in Jordan who is just waiting for the borders to open, and she will come. And we use the same social workers as OUR. And by some miracle, their social workers were able to locate, she had 2 children here. So what happens here all too commonly, unfortunately, is they'll like women will think they'll be able to provide for their family if they get a job out, right? And people will pay them to come work for them in the UAE or other places. And they don't realize they're getting themselves into a bad situation, right? Where they're going to be sex trafficked. So that's, I think, basically what happened. And so she was stranded
to her children while she's gone.
So she just left them with relatives. So like the one daughter is with an 87-year-old grandfather
Mm-hmm.
in a hut with no electricity and no water, basically. So so the social workers were able to locate her children, and they are going to join her here as soon as the borders open. So I cannot wait for that reunion to happen. That's going to be awesome.
That's amazing.
Awesome. But as you can imagine, this is a process. This is not a quick fix. Like, we have to work with these women for like a year, and then we have to work with them another year in their own place after this. And so so that's that one. And then the other one is a story, and we're still waiting to see how this is all going to play out, because well, I'll just tell you the story. So the mother from up north was feeding the baby on her lap, and her husband came in and tried to kill her with a machete, and she ducked out of the way, and he cut off the baby's leg.
Oh.
And by some miracle, the baby did not die. And so we just were notified by somebody, and we're waiting to see if, we haven't like made the final arrangements or anything like that. So I don't want to say like they are coming, but even if they don't come, there's a million other stories like this. That's the sad thing, right? And so anyway, some miracle, the baby didn't die. And the baby's being worked on to see if they can get some kind of prosthesis to allow the baby to be able to walk. I think she's a 2-year-old now. So anyway, but the problem is the father is in jail, but they don't know how long he's going to be there. So they're looking for a safe place that mother can come, where no one will be able to find her. And these are the stories. Like, we can't just tell all of these stories openly on Facebook, and some of them we can't share their photo. Some of them we can, some of them we can't. So so I appreciate this opportunity to just kind of get out that message about what we're doing. So even though like our focus is on families and strengthening those, literacy is a part of that. This Family Restoration Center is a really big deal. And we're so grateful that Doterra is matching us right now on this.
So tell us all about that, because we have a link to go in, and you can actually donate to the project. And we can see also, and I didn't look again today, but I know that there have been donations that have been occurring already. And so you're moving right up on that. I think you told me that Doterra will match $13,412. And it's kind of an arbitrary number, but it's because you had done another project that Doterra had already matched prior to that.
Right.
Just kind of see how it went. So you're trying to raise that $13,000 and a little bit, and then Doterra will match with the same amount. And then
so then we just had the thought this week, because we have till the end of the month to do it, but then the thought that came in, this is the intention that I'm setting, just like we do with Life Story, right?
Yes.
Is that we would love to raise that money for Doterra to match within 2 weeks, which now is actually only about 10 days, because we set that intention last Wednesday.
Right.
So we got about like 10 days. Because then we're going to, because we want to, two scenarios. We either want to find another donor to match that total amount, or just keep accruing more donations on it, because whatever comes in through that link just goes straight to the purchase of this property and to this project. Our goal is to pay it off completely, because then we own it free and clear. We don't have to worry about anything. We can do whatever changes we need. So that's our goal. We're just feeling really strongly that that's going to be the miracle that is taking place. So we're just looking for people who want to be part of this miracle. And I will tell you that you will be blessed.
Yeah.
Anybody who's part of this will be blessed for it, because this is not our project, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. That is awesome. Well, I love that. And so we'll have the link available for all of you that are wanting to see this. And then Becky is going to be with us again live tomorrow in our Facebook Abundantly Healing VIP members only group, where she will be talking. She'll tell a little bit about this again. So bring people, and she'll be sharing some stories with that. So bring some people that you want to have hear about this project and want to have the opportunity to donate on that. And then also she's going to give us just a little bit more. I've asked her because, we've talked about this life story. We've mentioned it all the way through. And so she's going to actually talk to you a little bit more even tomorrow about how you can go about changing your story. And I asked her to give just a tiny bit for this particular recording, and then she'll give us some more tomorrow. But for today, what would be the first thing? Like, what would you say? How could you start if you wanted to start changing your story? What do you do?
Okay, so especially if you're going to join us tomorrow, where we can go into more details on this. In the meantime, you got to start listening to what you're talking about. You have to start listening to what you're saying and listening to the story that you're telling, because you will find you have exactly what you're talking about. And a lot of times we'll think, oh, I have that because, I'm talking about it because that's what I have in my life. When in actual reality, it's the other way around. And so that's the first thing that's really, really important. And the second one is to start thinking about what you actually want. Because a lot of times I'll ask people, hey, what do you want? And they'll just look at me like they know backwards and forwards what they don't want, because that's what they've got, right? And they just hate everything about their life, or they hate this thing and hate that thing. But they haven't spent any time replacing that image of what they hate with what they actually would like. So those are the two things. So listen to yourself, number one, and number two, start getting clear on what you want. And honestly, don't put any limits on it. That's what I would say. Don't put any limits on it, because anything is possible.
Yeah. So listen to yourself, right. For real. Listen to yourself, and then start that list of what you want, and write it down. Yes. Or just think about it between now and tomorrow.
I would absolutely write it down. I have a little file, like a little note file in my phone. I have a place in my planner, like places where, because remember, it's all going to be about the intention that you set and how it's going to create itself. So, write it down.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with us. Thank you for the inspirational work that you're doing, the work that you're helping these families and these women, and just the work that you're doing with everything that you're doing. Thank you so much. And thanks for being with us. And we're excited to see you again tomorrow.
Thank you. I appreciate the invitation, and I'm excited to share.